Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Baker Mayfield finally getting traded from the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield's NFL future has been in doubt for months, and he has finally gotten his wish to become a starting quarterback in the NFL for the 2022 NFL season. Even though there will be a quarterback competition for Baker Mayfield, it is basically obvious that he will become the starting quarterback for the Panthers sooner rather than later. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So, here it is. What is your reaction to the Baker Mayfield trade finally happening? And so before I'm going to get started and everything like that, I want to go ahead and talk about the trade details. So the trade had the Browns receiving a 2024 Carolina Panthers conditional 5th round pick that can turn into a 2024 conditional 4th rounder if Baker Mayfield plays 70% of the snaps in the 2022 NFL season, while the Carolina Panthers received Baker Mayfield. All right, so first things first, I want to go ahead and break down his contract details. All right, so the Cleveland Browns, they're going to be paying $10.5 million in dead cap for the 2022 NFL season. All right, because remember, Baker Mayfield had a 1-year, $18.858 million contract due to the 5th-year option. So the Browns and the Panthers and Baker Mayfield, they came up on how to divvy that up in a creative way. So the Browns, they'll take up $10.5 million from it, while the Carolina Panthers will get Baker Mayfield on a 1-year contract worth $4.858 million, which is dirt cheap for an NFL starting caliber quarterback, while Baker Mayfield could earn up to $3.5 million in incentives. So Baker Mayfield can make up the other $3.5 million depending on play time, depending on whether his team will make the playoffs or not, something like that. So those are going to be the contract details. All right, so I want to go ahead and talk about who I think won this trade, which I think is rather simple. I think that my Carolina Panthers, as you can see with this shirt that I got on here, won this trade because the Carolina Panthers now get an upgrade at the starting quarterback position, while the Cleveland Browns, they get nothing in return in Baker Mayfield, essentially. They basically just cut him. I mean, yeah, I know they technically got a draft pick, but that draft pick is not going to impact them until 2024. And let's be honest, it's pretty low for what Baker Mayfield is worth. Now, look, am I saying Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback? Unfortunately, no. Hopefully, he proves me wrong because I'm a Panthers fan, and I want Baker Mayfield to go ahead and ball out for our team. But I don't think that he's that good of a quarterback. I think that he is kind of low-key overrated when you look at the media. Now, look, you got two sides of the Baker narrative, all right? Because the first narrative is, oh my God, look at Baker. He saved the Browns franchise. Oh my goodness, he had a great rookie year and he won a playoff game for the Browns in his 3rd year. Look at him just save that organization. And then you got the other side that's saying, man, Baker Mayfield is trash. He's a draft bust. He should be a backup for the rest of his career, and he's just not good at all. And he's got to be one of the worst starting quarterbacks in football. So those are the two sides of the coin that you got to look at when you're looking at Baker Mayfield. But for me, I don't think that either side is really true for Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker Mayfield is not a bad NFL quarterback. Now, granted, do I think that he's anything better than a good quarterback? No, I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't even think that he's an average quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield is a below average starting caliber quarterback. He's basically in the Teddy Bridgewater tier in terms of what a starting quarterback should look like, which is pretty bad for a former number 1 overall pick. Now, look, Baker Mayfield, look, the guy started 60 games in his career. Actually, he's played in 60 games. He started in 59 games. He has a 29-30 win-loss record, and that's not good considering that the Cleveland Browns had stacked teams around. They had OBJ around him. They had Jarvis Landry around him. They had Austin Hooper around him. Then obviously they got Chubb and Hunt as their 2 running backs. That's just the offensive side. Not only that, but the Cleveland Browns had a top 3 offensive line. So Baker Mayfield has gotten to play with tons of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And then defensively, they got Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward as their cornerstone pieces on the defensive side of the ball, alongside with Jadeveon Clowney as well. So Baker Mayfield has had plenty of talent to work with in Cleveland. And even though he's had a lot of coaching instability in there, he's had enough to work with. And he hasn't shown that he's a good enough quarterback, at least to be paid like a franchise quarterback, which is why the Cleveland Browns moved on and got Deshaun Watson. Now, granted, I don't think the Browns made a very smart move getting Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson is worth way too much in draft capital. I think they give him an outrageous contract with everything that's going on around him off the field. Who knows how many games he's going to end up getting suspended. I suspect that he'll end up getting suspended somewhere between 8 games to an entire season. The point is, Baker Mayfield, he's not all that. And the Cleveland Browns, they felt like they were compelled to make a risky move. I mean, look, everybody says that Baker Mayfield, he's never had a good coach. That's not true. He had a good coach. His coach was Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski is a pretty good coach. Now, I'm not going to lie. Baker Mayfield's coaches, some of them have been pretty bad. But, I mean, Kevin Stefanski, this past coach he worked with, he's actually pretty solid. And everybody says Baker Mayfield's not really replaceable for the Browns. Not true either, because Baker Mayfield, when he missed 3 games for the Cleveland Browns, they went 2-1 in his absence. Case Keenum, a career backup, went 2-0 starting for the Cleveland Browns last season when Baker Mayfield was out due to injury. And when they had to play their third stringer, Nick Mullins, for 1 game, they nearly beat the Raiders. Now, they ultimately didn't win it, but I mean, come on, that's a third string quarterback. I mean, honestly, when you look at those Browns quarterbacks last year versus what Baker did last year, those Browns quarterbacks were not significantly worse than Baker Mayfield. One could make the argument that they might have been low-key better than Baker Mayfield. That just shows you how bad Baker Mayfield was for them last year. Now, I know that Baker Mayfield, he was playing hurt. He was playing with a torn labrum and everything like that. But whose fault is that? Because if you're really injured, don't play. It's as simple as that. And I just want to say for Baker Mayfield, he's had 60 games worth of tape to prove himself to be a franchise quarterback. And there's a rule out there that if you're on the fringe, like if you're not sure about whether a guy's a franchise guy or not, that means he's not a franchise guy. If you want to be a franchise guy in the NFL, you have to make it absolutely clear that you're worth it. Like if I ask you, is Patrick Mahomes franchise guy? Yeah. Is Justin Herbert franchise guy? Yeah. Is Joe Burrow a franchise guy? Yeah. Is Lamar Jackson a franchise guy? Yeah. Baker Mayfield's not in that category. He's not even in the category of a solid NFL starting quarterback. Okay, Baker Mayfield, he's not bad. Like, I would certainly take him over a Daniel Jones. I would take him over a Tua, but he's not that much better than that. Baker Mayfield has had 4 years worth of tape to show who he is. And Baker Mayfield has shown that he's a below average starting quarterback where if you put it a perfect team around him, he's just average. And that's not good enough in the modern NFL. In the modern NFL, you need a guy that can raise his team around it, and Baker Mayfield is not that. It's not because Baker Mayfield is short. Baker Mayfield being short has nothing to do with him not being good enough. He's not good enough because he's too cocky personality-wise. I don't think he's hit rock bottom yet. I think he's going to hit rock bottom on the Carolina Panthers under Coach Rule. And quite frankly, he has a lot of swag factor, but swag can only take you so far. He's not, for a guy that's lauded heavily with accuracy, Baker Mayfield has a career completion percentage of 61.6%. That is horrible by today's NFL standards, especially for a former number 1 overall pick. And also, here's the other thing that really bugs me with Baker Mayfield. In a league where it has been never easier to throw for 4,000 passing yards in the NFL, Baker Mayfield, despite all the weapons he had on the Cleveland Browns, never threw for over 4,000 yards. In fact, he never really seemed to show signs of improvement for the most part. I mean, he started out hot, then he dropped out the following year. Then Kevin Stefanski in the run game basically carried Baker Mayfield. And then last year, he dripped down really bad. So the way I'm looking at it, Baker Mayfield, he hasn't necessarily shown signs of continuous improvement. But I'll say this for Baker Mayfield. He's going to go to a place now where, even though they're saying there's a quarterback competition, I think Baker Mayfield's going to end up starting because, first of all, he's just better than Sam Darnold. All right, it's not a high bar to clear in terms of passing Sam Darnold. Every single quarterback in the NFL, every single starting quarterback in the NFL is better than Sam Darnold, plain and simple. Look, if you say that Sam Darnold is better than some of the starting quarterbacks, you have to be drug tested because Sam Darnold is an awful quarterback. In Sam Darnold's last 8 games that he played in, he threw 4 touchdowns, 10 picks, lost 3 fumbles. That is horrible production. Not even Josh Rosen for the Arizona Cardinals played that bad. And that's saying something. So that means Sam Darnold, he was pretty awful for the Carolina Panthers last year. And I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I watched every single Panthers game last year. Sam Darnold was a terrible quarterback. So I feel like, to me, Baker Mayfield is going to beat out Sam Darnold for the starting quarterback job, regardless of whenever he arrived on the team, just because he's not a high bar to clear. All you got to do is not throw picks every single drive, and you're good, basically. As long as Baker Mayfield shows some signs of competency, he'll be fine. Now, granted, Baker Mayfield is a turnover machine. He's thrown 56 interceptions in 4 years. That leads the NFL in interceptions. Don't worry, Sam Darnold will have led the league in interceptions, too, if he got to play that much, too. But the point is, Baker Mayfield, former number 1 overall pick, this is a drastic fall for him to be able to only be traded for a 5th-round conditional pick. Thing is, though, I don't think he's hit rock bottom. Rock bottom is going to be when he's going to be struggling for Matt Rule out there because Matt Rule is a terrible head coach. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to develop quarterbacks, doesn't know how to come up with good game plans, particularly in the second half of the season. Baker Mayfield, he might start out hot for the Panthers, but he's going to cool off. and he's going to struggle and crash and burn along the way. That's when he'll officially hit rock bottom, when nobody's going to want him in a year. Because the way I'm looking at this trade for the Carolina Panthers, I mean, at least it's something different. At least Sam Darnold is not the starting quarterback, or at least I would hope that would be the case. Otherwise, Baker Mayfield might be worse than what we're all thinking out there. But Baker Mayfield, he's not good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, a good starting quarterback in the NFL. That means the Carolina Panthers are going to be moving on from Baker Mayfield when his contract expires after 2022. Either way, though, the way I see this is a low risk, somewhat of a high reward kind of situation for Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to say it's a high reward because I think we've already seen Baker Mayfield's ceiling. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think that his ceiling is a stopgap quarterback moving forward. He might be a solid starter if you put some nice pieces around him. But look, Baker Mayfield, he's going to have Christian McCaffrey to work with. He's going to have DJ Moore to work with. But let's see if he can win over the locker room. Let's see if he can win those guys over. Because a guy like Robbie Anderson, I know he's retracted his statements, but when he was asked earlier this offseason about whether he wanted Baker Mayfield or not, he said no, he did not want Baker Mayfield. And so that means Baker's going to have to win over his guys. And there's something telling when you see guys in the locker room not really defend a former starting quarterback the way that they didn't with Baker Mayfield on the Browns. It's not like guys have spoken out in defense of Baker Mayfield. Sure, some guys have said some things about him, some nice things about him, saying he's a guy that can play, but they don't go out of the way to defend everything the guy can do. They don't say, oh, this guy saved the Browns all by himself. Because the truth was he didn't. I'm not going to say he didn't play a role. He did play a role in it, but other guys played bigger roles than he did. Baker Mayfield was more of a background character. I know his ego doesn't allow him to be that. The point is, though, I look at this as a low-risk type of situation for the Carolina Panthers. I think that at least it gets fans in the seats for 2022 and showing us that Sam Darnold is not going to be the starting quarterback in 2022. But I also don't like this trade for the Panthers either because Matt Corral, this is a quarterback we traded a future third-round pick to go get up. Now that means he's probably going to have to play third string because there's no way that Darnold's going to be a third-string quarterback. Now, granted, the way that he plays, yeah, I want to say he's a third-string quarterback, but look, he's getting paid $19 million next year. They're not going to pay a guy $19 million to put him third string on the bench. Now, if that happens, that's truly unprecedented. And I actually kind of low-key hope that it happens. But I'm being a realist here. I don't see that happening. So this trade, this is not good for Corral's development at all. I think Baker Mayfield, this is going to be a stopgap quarterback that will tease people up, make people think that he's better than what he is, and then he crashes down and burns. So I think the Panthers are going to get rid of Mayfield after 2022. Either way, though, this is a shot in the dark, and the Panthers, they had to do something different at the quarterback position. As for the Browns, look, they get some money back in the deal, but look, they're still paying dead cap, and they should have gotten way more than what they got in return for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is not worth as little as what they got in return. They bungled up that situation badly. They should have traded him before. They pulled off the Deshaun Watson trade when Baker Mayfield announced that he wanted to get traded from the Browns. That's when the Browns should have just quietly dealt with him instead of trashing him publicly. That's what they should have just done. So final things that I want to say, I want to give grades before I wrap up this video. So I think it's pretty straightforward. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you get an F-. I hated the way they handled the situation. Plus, they have to pay $10.5 million in dead cap over a guy that won't be on the roster next year, a guy that they could certainly use, considering that Deshaun Watson is about to get suspended for who knows how long. So, to me, the Browns have to get an F-. As for my Panthers, I would love for them to get an A+, but I have to be objective as an NFL guy. I think the Carolina Panthers get a C in this deal. You know, at least they're doing something different at the quarterback position. I just don't think that Baker Mayfield is that good of a quarterback. And as for Baker Mayfield, he now has a tremendous opportunity to prove to the NFL world that he should be a starting quarterback that should get paid nicely on the Carolina Panthers. So Baker Mayfield, I give him an A just because he finally gets in a situation where he can go ahead and show out his skill set. He's going to have Christian McCaffrey to rely on. He's going to have DJ Moore to rely on. He's got solid weapons. Now, is it as stacked as the Browns team? No, but there's not a lot of teams that constructed a roster as well as the Browns did. And I just feel for Baker Mayfield if he has Coach Rule, because Matt Rule, he's not a good coach at all. He's a terrible head coach. So if he does suck, that'll be one thing that he'll have going for him. But Baker Mayfield, he's got to go out there and perform well for the 2022 NFL season. If not, he's going to be a career backup for the rest of his career. So that's how I'm looking at it. So that is why the Panthers won the Baker Mayfield trade by default, even though I am not even optimistic about Baker Mayfield and the Panthers in the long term. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in a future video. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.